How We Become the Victim. Written by Kevin Edwards. Spoken by Tom Force. This book is dedicated to all victims, but was written for those of us too comfortable with victimhood, too at home with self-pity. As with any patterned behavior, we cannot stop it until we acknowledge and understand it. Disclaimer. This book is not meant to make light of victimization in any way, nor can it take the place of honoring pain and what one goes through as a victim. Rather, this book exposes how we form a victim identity, how this hurts us, and how it is kept going to our detriment. It is a book not about victimization, but victimhood. It is about how beliefs develop and how we suffer needlessly at their mercy. It exposes the lie of powerlessness and arms us against the demons of self-sabotage and self-pity. Introduction. How do we become a victim? How do we adopt a victim identity? It is one thing to be a victim of a crime or an assault. It is another to adopt a victim identity. The latter is the result of what we tell ourselves. It is the result of our running commentary or story, which serves as a reminder. So-and-so did this to me. Life did this to me. It's unfair. That you were wronged may be true. Let's consider that it is. The impact of the story that surrounds it is far greater than the actual event or happening. The event lasts only a short while, but the story is relived again and again in our mind. This will continue until we put it to rest. How it happens. Everything is happening to you without your consent. You are a victim. Why are you a victim? Well, the answer is simple. Because you believe yourself to be. Because you consider how you have been wronged and not how you have wronged others. We all have wronged others. No one can claim to be exempt. We lose sight of this in moments when we're feeling sorry for ourselves. But the moment we do, we lose our power and go from victor to victim, from the truth to our victim version of reality. At first glance, we would think it better to focus on how we ourselves were wronged, because that way we can seek to be vindicated, gain sympathy. But who's to say what is just, especially when we have ceased to entertain how we have wronged others? And if sympathy is what we are after, we are already setting ourselves up to be disempowered. In truth, empathy is much more empowering than sympathy. With sympathy, you are a victim. With empathy, you are powerful and generous of heart. With empathy, you are wealthy. With sympathy, needy. One who exercises empathy as a habit is focused on the needs of others and not on himself. As a result, he seldom feels out of control or victimized. Who would have guessed that living in a scenario where everything happens to us would make us victims? Of course it will. We are the victim of circumstance, and circumstances happen to us, right? Flipping the script. I want to invite you to try something new. I want to invite you to stop blaming, which makes you a victim, and instead take a good hard look at you. Flip the scenario from how you've been wronged to how you've wronged others. Flip the script from one that seeks sympathy to one that exercises empathy. We think it empowering to blame others, but, in fact, it is exactly the opposite. The moment we do it, we assume the role of a victim. We think we are empowered by finding fault with others, with the system, with God. But it is the exact opposite. Blaming turns us into victims. I've been there. I've been in the clutches of powerlessness and victimhood, and know that peace doesn't come until we stop the blame game and take a good hard look at ourselves. As they say, confession is good for the soul. Then, once we do, once we acknowledge our part, we no longer are victims. When our inner dialogue begins with, "Somebody could have," or somebody should have. We are on our way to victimhood. When our inner dialogue begins with, I should have, or I could have, we are on our way to empowerment and empathy. My story. My own experience with blame is significant, and what I've learned from blaming, in my case I mostly blame God, is that it is a colossal waste of time and energy, and always leads to feeling powerless. That's the paradox. So long as we are stuck in blame, we are stuck in powerlessness. Before now, I never looked deeply into it. It took some friends of mine who always seemed to have an argument with life. Though their stories and circumstances vary, they all had one thing in common. They were victims. Life was wrong, and they were right. So-and-so could have, or should have. They blamed everyone except themselves, and their sense of powerlessness was palpable. Some of them, in fact most of them, were suicidal. I myself have never been suicidal. Fortunately, I've always been able to find meaning or purpose and entertain some healthier choice other than trying to take my own life. Were I to look at the matter rationally, I would conclude the following: that suicide is connected to hopelessness, that hopelessness is a form of powerlessness, that powerlessness is the result of victimhood, and victimhood is a mental habit which can be kept in check. What I've been able to observe and now reflect upon is how similar mental habits were in these friends of mine. I know because I began to see, at work, a similar dynamic within myself. So I will start with me. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Anyone who knows me well knows that I am susceptible to sugar. It can be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Add a little stress to the mix, and I can become an unhinged, schizophrenic, bipolar maniac in no time. During these times, I exhibit what I can only compare to Tourette's syndrome or demonic possession. Doing my best to protect others from myself in these moments, I silently hurl insult after insult, profanity after profanity at God. In my story, God gets all of the abuse, if not the lion's share. In these, my moments of victimhood, I blame God for everything under the sun. As I recount my own experience, I am aware of how powerless I perceive myself to be in these moments, and how much victimhood is actually playing out. Maybe next time it happens, I will be able to see it for what it is, understand what's happening, and put it to rest. Or maybe I will wake up from a sound sleep and begin damage control once again. The mind has a mind of its own. To control it is not so easy, especially when deep-seated habits, substances, and chemicals are involved. There is a reason why they call it brain chemistry. The chemicals can be off, and as a result, we can be off to our very own version of reality, where we are always getting dumped on. Anyone who knows us can see that we have a great deal to be thankful for, and that we are, in fact, wallowing in self-pity. And if we are being truly honest, share a portion of the blame. Oftentimes, the next morning, I would wake up embarrassed about how I behaved the night before, and how I used profanity. I would come to and say to myself, what was all that about? Then I apologize to God and eventually make it to confession. But I am one of the lucky ones. I know that I'm the problem. Going up against God has its advantages. God being perfect, the only one left to blame is me. I say lucky because the others, my friends stuck in the blame game, may be there for the rest of their life. Whether or not they are is truly their decision. Nothing is keeping them in the game except the need to assign blame to everyone but themselves. I have seen it time and again. Everyone else is wrong, they are right. Life is unfair. They acted justly, did everything right. Why me? Really? Everything? They are stuck in victimhood, and the only way out is to consider not how we have been wronged, but how we have wronged others. Most can't see this simple truth, or how the dynamic works. It is helpful to consider not how others have wronged us, but how we have wronged others. That is the exit, the way out. That is what sets us free from the demon of self-pity, a completely useless emotion, to the angel of self-responsibility. When we are responsible for ourselves, we are no longer powerless. When we move from sympathy to empathy, we go from a beggar to an emperor in an instant. No one to blame. But I have rarely seen this happen. Self-pity is a powerful demon. Rare is the one who says, "It's my fault. My life is thus because of me." But when they do, a tremendous energy is released. Energy that can be used to improve their life and self. Be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid. And what is more bold, more admirable, more commendable than taking responsibility for your life? We don't realize it, but maintaining a victim identity takes tremendous energy. It is a commitment. One has to commit to propping up their version of reality and the story, "I've been wronged. Never mind that I have wronged others." Every so often, I get a text, "I have nothing left to live for." After texting back and forth, it comes out clear as day. I am a victim. What's worse is they don't want to lose their victim identity. They need something or someone to blame. Otherwise, they would have to take full responsibility for their life, which not many are willing to do. But until they do it, they will be stuck. When we don't have someone or something to blame, victimhood can't continue, and we are responsible for our life once again. One thing the person threatening suicide is reluctant to do is to take responsibility for their life. They don't want to live. They want to be justified. When they aren't getting the desired justification, they say, "Life isn't fair. I got the short end of the stick." Okay, so what are you going to do about it? What are you doing to change that? If you didn't spend so much energy propping up a victim identity, you would have all the energy that you need. This is, no doubt, a silly illustration. But while I'm writing now, it is a hot summer day. The air conditioning failed earlier on, and I am just now noticing that I'm sweating all over the sheets. I instantly blame the sheets for making me sweat. But who picked out the sheets? I did. It is insanity to blame sheets, but that's what I did. That is, until I caught myself.